Hello Thistle fans, and a very warm welcome to this special interview, hopefully the first of many. And we say a huge thanks to Mr. Stephen Craigan for joining us today. Hi Stephen.
Hi Brian.
So for some Scottish football fans, when you see Stephen's face, you might think of his long career with Motherwell in Northern Ireland. Some younger fans might instantly associate him with BT Sport. But for Thistle fans of a certain vintage, he will always be remembered and loved as a mainstay of one of the most popular teams of the last 40 years. So, Stephen, welcome. First and foremost, how are you? And what's life under lockdown like for the Craigans just now?
Yeah, well, we're getting through it. It's it can't be that bad. We have to sit in the house, we have to watch TV, we have to relax. That's doable. For a lot of people. Of course, we're missing the stimulation of being out and about and mixing with people and doing things that we enjoy, things that we love. But I think that will come eventually. So the most important thing is people stay safe. But listen, we're fine. We're able to exercise in the house. We've got a little dog. We're able to get out 2 or 3 times a day, so she can do her deeds. I try and exercise as much as I can. We're eating reasonably healthy. So all in all, Brian, we're in a good place. Good.
Glad to hear it. Long may that continue. So today, we want to talk solely about your 3-year stay at Firhill, 3 very successful years. And you actually, when we were setting this up, you commented it's not something you've been asked to speak about too often, so it'll be a really great insight for Thistle fans like myself. So just going back to the start, can you tell us how it came about that you got your move to Partick Thistle?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, in your intro you mentioned that people always associate me with Motherwell. I've got a 10-year-old daughter. And I was telling her the other day that I played at Partick Thistle, and she went, "Really? Did you, Dad?" And I said, "I did." I said, "I played 125 games, I think it was." And she went, "Oh my goodness, that." So it just shows it can get lost at times. I was freed by Motherwell in the year 2000. Billy Davis told me the time was up that it was time to go and find a new club, and he was probably right. But at the time, naturally you're disappointed that you're not wanted somewhere. But Alan Dick, who I'd always been reasonably friendly with at Motherwell, who I think was the secretary at Motherwell, was working at Partick Thistle at the time. When he saw that I'd been released, he contacted me, contacted John Lambie to see if it would be worthwhile to get me in for a couple of weeks training over the pre-season period in, I think, July 2000. So I went along, had a couple of weeks pre-season. I think we played a game. I think we might have actually played Motherwell in a closed-door game at the training pitch. And after the game, John said, "Listen, I'd like to offer you a 1-year deal." So I almost snapped his hand off because I was at the stage of, do I go back to Northern Ireland with my tail between my legs, or do I stay in Scotland and try and make a career of it? So the fact that the offer came from John, I knew Thistle were a big club, shouldn't have been where they were, but they were for reasons that they hadn't been good enough. So I thought it would be nice to go and try something different and try and get the club back to where it was, but also for me to go and try and play every week.
Yeah,
I was at Motherwell where I played 2 or 3 games, Brian, then I was out, then I was in, then I was out, and maybe went a month with no games. I thought if I can go there and get myself 30, 40 games on the trot, you learn how to be a footballer, you learn how to train, you learn how to eat, you learn how to sleep, all the things that, I dreamt of as a young boy. There was an opportunity to go and do that. So, that's how my move to Partick Thistle came about.
Good stuff. And first, you talked about, you saw straight away it was, a club of potential, a big club. Your first impressions of the club and of Firhill, but most of all of that man you just mentioned, John Lambie.
Yeah, listen, he always brings a smile to my face because naturally, from the outside looking in, he was eccentric, he was different. He liked to use the swear words now and again. At times I thought he had Tourette syndrome, but underneath there was a man who cared about football, who cared about Partick Thistle and cared about his players. A lot of the time that side didn't come across. John liked to have that fear factor, that element of people, frightened to go near him. But, he had a soft side, no doubt about it. He didn't like to show it too often, but, if you went to see him with an issue, went to see him with a problem, he would try and help you out as much as he possibly could. But he almost, he reinvigorated my career effectively. I spoke earlier about getting that chance to play every week. He was the man that gave me that opportunity. And even when results didn't go well, or if I didn't have a good game, he played me the next week. That almost gives you a belief and a self-confidence. Whereas previously at Motherwell first time round, when I played and didn't play well, I got left out of the team.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes for a month. Where John stuck by me. We had a small squad. He knew his football. a lot of the time, you know, his bark was worse than his bite. I think he used to have a sign in his office at Fairhill, my bark's worse than the bite, because you'd come in after the game, win or lose, you know, he'd maybe say a couple of things and disappear. And it wasn't until the Sunday morning, the Monday morning, you actually read how well you played or how poor you played, because he would comment in the paper but wouldn't tell you. So it was used to be dealing with different personalities and how it went. But listen, he was a super man. He loved his football. And the biggest compliment John ever paid me, he picked his all-time Thistle 11, I think, for one of the daily newspapers, and he put me in it, and he said that if there was a better professional, something paraphrasing, if there was a better professional in Scottish football, he is yet to meet him. And I think that was I took that as a huge compliment, because I prided myself in being fit and being strong and being healthy and being prepared, all the things I was dedicating myself to. John had noticed it. He never said to me, at one stage he never mentioned it to me, Brian, but he mentioned it further down the line. So a wonderful man.
That's a great accolade to have, isn't it? And we'll come back to best 11s a little bit later on, perhaps. So, so that was the late summer of 2000. The 2000-2001 campaign was about to get underway. Do you remember your competitive debut?
I think it might have been at home against Airdrie.
Yes, we've got Thistle history books tell us Airdrie a defeat in the League Cup after extra time.
Yeah. Was the League Cup or Challenge Cup? I'm not too sure it was League Cup or Challenge Cup. I'm not too sure which one it was. We were due to play, we played Arbroath on the Saturday. I had actually been taken into hospital in the build-up to that game. I had headaches, really incredible headaches. And I mean, at the time it was mentioned that I could be out for an extended period. But I think I spent a night or two in hospital. Come the Friday, John said, listen, we'll leave it until the Tuesday if you're going to be fine. So my career didn't get off to the greatest of starts because I missed the first game, but I just remember going to Arbroath. I think we drew 1-1, and the crowd, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a second division game, third tier of Scottish football, and we're up towards 1,000 Thistle fans had travelled up, and I thought, oh, so as much as you think a club's reasonably big and, they've got a good support, it wasn't until that day I thought, they've been in the doldrums, they've had a tough couple of years, and here they are taking 1,000 people away from home in the first game. And then you start to think to yourself, we can get this right and we can build up some momentum. It's amazing where it can take us. So, my debut was against Airdrie. I think we lost in the League Cup. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. That was a surprise to me when I was researching last night that, we're not going to talk about many negatives at all in this, but we had a bit of a start to that season. We were out the 2 cups in August and only won, I think, one of our first 4 league games. So, I mean, you were obviously trying to bed into a new team. Was there any anxiety or panic at that stage? Can you remember?
No, I think you touched on it. The fact that there was probably a lot of expectation on us. Someone like myself hadn't played regularly, really hadn't really had to cope with that pressure on a daily basis or weekly basis. So it was adapting for me, certainly. For John, trying to get his team right, he was always looking for players. Bringing in the likes of Sandy Stewart, Alan Moore, Mark McNally, Danny Lennon was there. Guys with experience. You always felt, once we settled in, Martin Hardy, I think, had come in from Queen's Park. Had Martin come from Queen's Park, I think, possibly? Sterling. It was East Sterling. So Martin had a goal in him. Scott McLean up front was a very good player. So it was just all about gelling together and getting it together. And I think once we did get it right, then there was no stopping us. Coupled with the support away from home. I mean, I said Arbroath, but I remember going to, in the old Division 2, going to Queen of the South and going to Berwick and going to Stranraer, going to Forfar earlier in the season. And just there was Thistle fans everywhere. There was a real feel-good factor about it. And, once we get through that little sticky patch at the start, once we started to win games, then it was only a matter of time before we started to pull away and started to, I think, maybe 18, 19 games, if not 20 games, possibly more, unbeaten. Brian,
right.
It really just gave us that momentum to kick on, and everything was rosy.
100%. And I think that you hear that word momentum being so important in sport quite a lot, and that does extend to the terraces. If you've got momentum on the pitch, then fans just look forward to every Saturday. So I noted down after that slow start, I think Danny Lennon got a winner at Hampden. Scott McLean scored in 8 consecutive games. Martin Hardy obviously found his range pretty quickly, and it was 18 matches from late September to mid-February unbeaten. Our wee hoodoo that year, you might remember, was Stenhousemuir. We cuffed them twice and we lost them twice, but you were an ever-present bar of the first game, and you probably touched on the experience being key to that team, but momentum. And I guess what point in that season did you think we're onto something good here?
Well, I'll tell you what it was. Round about Christmas and New Year, I think we had the undersoil heating. Yeah. And we used it, and it was put on. It's probably a good expense to get it on. but we played some games. I can't remember who we played. I think we might have played Stenhousemuir around that period. First time at home, possibly. So when other teams were having games called off, our games were on, particularly at Firhill. So when you go on to a win and run, you know, and they always say that points in the bag are better than games in hand. And we were like that. I think by the time we got to February, we had built up a huge gap, you know, because those games over the Christmas period, we had got on. The other side then suddenly come into February, March, April, we're having to play 2-3 games a week, which for part-time players was always going to be an uphill struggle. So once we got that lead, once we got the points gap, it always looked like we were going to go on and win the title. So, I mean, for a lot of people, they'd probably done it before. You know, for myself, being young and, you know, as well, 23, I was 24, but you're still finding your way, still, you know, young with regards games under your belt. You know, not a lot of lads in that dressing room had won league titles before, and irrespective of whether it be the old second division. Some people can say, oh, it's only, you know, Division 2, but it's still special. You know, you still hold it close to your heart. You know, you spoke about the games that we won, last minute winners, you know, crowds away from home, crowds at Firhill. Everything just seemed to build as if, you know, it wasn't just going to be a one season thing. That if we could continue this into the following season, we'll go on to that. But, you know, there was just, John was clever. You know, John brought in players who he didn't really have to, I'm saying he didn't have to coach, but he brought in experienced players who would look after the dressing room, who would look after things on the pitch, who would make good decisions on the pitch. And I think, you know, the longer he went with, like Scott McLean and Martin Hardy and myself, we got better with it. We got better with the experienced players, with Danny Lennons and things like that. Bran Hamilton was in there at that stage, you know, as much as at times Bran wasn't a fan's favourite, but he was an experienced player in the dressing room. He'd played top flight football. So when you put it all together, once it started to build and kick on, you know, we felt after that Christmas period, it was only a matter of time before we went on to be champions.
And when that did come, I picked out 3 games, and Stirling away, Forfar away, and then Stenhousemuir at home will have special memories for you. But what do you remember? Because from a fan's point of view, it just seemed like we had about a month of partying, and it was all. But you know, we had to get over the line, and in different ways, those 3 days brought different things. Stirling will be remembered for Lindau, Forfar for Paul McGrillen effectively winning us the title, and then we'll come on to Stenhousemuir and a pretty special moment for you. But let's start with Stirling, because that was a day when I think 3/4 of the stadium was Thistle and the sun was shining.
Which was incredible in itself. You know, the culmination of supporters travelling up and down the country, coming to home games, back in the team, and you know, and I'm not too sure Fourth Bank has ever been as busy. I know they played Hibs possibly in a League Cup tie, maybe late 90s. You know, where they might have had a good crowd. Hibs had a good crowd, but you know, Fourth Bank hasn't been as busy than the Thistle fans coming in. I think it was on Jag Zone or a goal game of the day. It was on a few weeks ago, and I watched it back just and saw the goals and the celebrations and knee slides. It was relief in the end, because you know, as much as you always think you're going to win it or you're going to get promoted, I think that was promotion initially. Just getting that tick of promotion against their name maybe just freed us up a little bit to go on and kind of enjoy it. You know, because, you know, we did get the chance to enjoy it. We'd worked hard. We put ourselves in a good position. But I think after that, the following week, we played Queen of the South. I think a point would have been enough, and we had 3 men sent off, didn't we? We lost. Yeah,
that's right.
Possibly 2-0. And I remember the referee, actually. The referee was Brian Cassidy. I've started doing a little bit of after dinner speaking. I was doing one on East Kilbride a while ago. And I remember looking at him thinking, I know his face from somewhere. And I had to ask someone in the top tier, what's that? He said, Brian Cassidy. I said, right. I said, Brian, you refereed Partick Thistle. He said, I didn't. I sent 3 men off, and they all deserved to be sent off. And I said, well, there you go. So I said, you haven't changed your mind all these years later? He says, no, I haven't. I said, well, so we had a bit of a chat about it. But so we got that game out of the way. Then, as you say, we were suddenly 3 players down. I think Mark McNally, Martin Hardy, and Stephen Docherty were possibly 3. So I think it might have been the following week. Then we went to Forfar, and the late Paul McGrillen, of course. You know, God rest his soul. He'd come off the bench possibly to get the equaliser against Forfar. And I have to say, you know, the bus trip from Forfar down to Glasgow was just absolutely sensational. I think players still had their kit on. You know, even in Forfar, we're singing and dancing. The supporters surrounded the entrance to the pitch, the tunnel area. We were up singing. We stopped in Dundee at a Tesco or somewhere to get a carry, to get more. It was just a culmination. You know, I've used that word before, but just everything coming together of you know, good times and everybody celebrating together. And guys like Kenny Arthur and Alan Archibald, who had been through, you know, the lows of coming down, having to rebuild and come back up as well. It was a special day for them, but all round it was just a terrific experience.
And we almost got the perfect hat trick of winning promotion away from home, winning the title away from home, and then trophy day at home at Stenhousemuir. And you know, I'll let you tell the story of what happened that afternoon.
Yeah. Well, naturally won the game. We won the game comfortably. The place was buzzing. The supporters were there in the thousands, as they'd always been. My mum and dad were over, family were over, my girlfriend at the time, my wife was at the game. So, they were just coming to see us lifting the trophy and get on. I mean, little did I know, it's as easy and as simple as it sounds, scoring your first senior goal against, in the third tier of Scottish football. I didn't really care. I just remember I got to head the ball and there was a blank. And that was naturally the ball hitting my head. I must have closed my eyes, and then suddenly everybody was jumping around me. The top came up. It was just unbridled joy. I never had imagined of scoring goals or doing whatever, but just taking part in football was a buzz for me. So to score the goal, really, when you look at it, an irrelevant goal because we won the league, we were winning 4-0 or whatever the score was. So, but it was just nice because everybody was there from family-wise to see it. All that work throughout the year, the disappointment of the previous summer getting freed, everything just kind of came there. Came together, and the emotion top came off, had the head shaved. So listen, all the players celebrated and enjoyed it with me. But unfortunately, something let loose, and I can't really remember. But it was good fun.
And it wasn't Brian Cassidy that day, was it?
No, it probably wasn't, because he might have disallowed it. There you go. But no, it was.
You got the bit.
I did. Listen, it's certainly a memory that lived with me forever that day. Absolutely.
Didn't mind taking
the only Thistle goal as well, wasn't it? No, absolutely. I think it was the only Thistle goal. It would have been the only Thistle goal as well.
Yeah.
There you go. Always be remembered.
Brilliant. So momentum went into, winning the old second division was an expectation. Going up to the first, I'm not really sure if I can remember what the fans expected. Probably, we hoped to be competitive, and perhaps we played St Mirren in a really good game in the opening day of the season, 3 each again in the same big crowd, and maybe that just set us in our minds that we can do something this year. I think off the back of that, we went quite a good run of winning games. Going into that season as a squad, what were you thinking?
Well, again, we probably weren't too sure. I think with the squad we had in the old second division, probably wouldn't have been good enough to go and compete. So that's where John had to work his magic. He brought in the likes of Derek, throughout, whether it was initially at the start or throughout, likes of Derek Fleming and Mark McCulloch, Paul Dees, guys who had played in the championship and had won titles, had won leagues. They were comfortable playing that environment. Jamie Dolan was another one. I think he eventually brought Jamie in. God rest his soul. I played with Jamie at Motherwell too. So John worked his magic getting players in. Scott Patterson, of course, as well, joined that summer. So suddenly he started to put a squad together physically that were stronger, more capable, probably had been more used to full-time football. So the first year was almost like a hybrid system with John in Division 2, where we trained at night and during the day. The following season, we took it into almost just training every day. So the involvement off the pitch with regards to training certainly helped. But again, playing St Mirren, because St Mirren had just been relegated from the old SPL as it was then, Brian. We'd came up, and it just showed the size of the club. I mean, the crowd was, 10,000. It was absolutely terrific. You said it was a wonderful day. It was a great game, lots of entertainment. I think Danny Lennon got a late equaliser for us. Alec Burns, who eventually joined Partick Thistle. I played with Alec at Motherwell. He played for St Mirren, might have scored. So, you're looking at it and thinking, if they're coming down from the SPL and they're a decent side, and we've come up from Division 2, we didn't want to look too far ahead, but we thought if we can compete with this side, and try and get some results together, then we could have another chance. Definitely.
I think previous season you talked about the advantage of playing over kind of Christmas and New Year when we used Undershaw Heat. I think it was that period of the season, that campaign, that as fans we thought, right, wait a minute, that's possible. The two games that stand to me were the late Martin Hardy double in Inverness, and then the following week we played St Mirren at home. Kenny saved I think Stephen McGarry penalty, and Martin came off the bench again and scored, and that was just 6 points where we probably could have had 0, and from there it was just onwards and upwards.
Yeah, well, I think we had a good run that spell. I've noted some down. I remember we beat Inverness, we beat St Mirren at home. I think we beat Ayr at home, where Jamie Dolan was sent off after about 20 minutes. We then beat Clyde at home. We went and beat Falkirk 4-1, we were 4-0 up. And then we went to Ross County. I think Martin Hardy got a late winner there. So we had suddenly won 6 games in the bounce from, I think, early December into January, certainly up to the end of December. So that's when things started to turn a little bit for us and kick us on. But I think that's always, when you look back at championship winning sides, particularly lower down, because normally it's one of the lower firm off with it, but the amount of late goals they get, or winners they get when they've been up against it, or when they don't lose, when they haven't played particularly well, down to 10 men against Ayr United, who were fancying the chances. So we had that little bit of momentum. I know momentum is a word we keep using, but it just suddenly started to snowball. And again, I think we lost maybe 2 or 3 or 14 or 15 games would suddenly put, passes the buck to someone else, puts a pressure on the other teams, and we start to kind of build a little bit of a lead and kind of kick us on. So, but John was always aware of, what was going on. He was always wanting to chop and change the team. You taught me bringing Martin Hardy off the bench. That's keeping people hungry at times, leaving them out, see if they can come on and make the impact, and suddenly they do. And then you've got a refreshed player, a hungry, angry player who wants to prove people wrong. So, that's all part of man management. Once we got beyond that Christmas period, it was strange throughout that season because although Airdrie were the main challenges, we didn't beat them at any stage.
Mm-hmm.
I think they beat us once, 1-0 on College Court. I think the other 3 games were draws.
Yeah.
So we didn't really pick anything up off them with regards to kicking on to the league. But, that was a good league. Falkirk and Ross County and Clyde were a decent side at the time. Our Broth had come up from the division as well. St Mirren, Ayr United. So, there was a bit of money going about in that league too. And for us to come up and show that consistency, eventually going in the league was terrific.
Yeah. And all the more commendable because at the same time we went in the Scottish Cup run that another famous occasions, that the win in Dundee after Jerry Britton's screamer and Andy Gibson's late winner, the night in Inverness, whoever was there, I don't think we'll ever forget that free kick, and then obviously the semi-final at Hampden. That was some achievement for the squad while the league form was going to take a scalp in Dundee, win in Inverness, and get all the way to playing Rangers in the semi-final, which must have been a proud career moment.
Oh, it was great. It was terrific, because Dundee were a top flight side at the time, so for us to play Dundee with Caballero and Sarah and, I think Nemzadze, the players who were doing really well in the SPL to come. I think we drew one each at Firhill, and I just remember, at the end of Firhill now where there's no terrace, and that was open. That was the first time, probably the only time that I played at Thistle, we opened the terrace behind the goal, and there was a good crowd there, and I thought this has really gathered the imagination of the public, the fact they want to come and watch. So to get a draw, and we, probably deep down you think, well, that could be our chance gone. But then we get the Dundee and Jerry scores the wonder goal. And then Andy Gibson, as you say, the raw emotion of scoring late on in the game was just absolutely sensational. But the Inverness one, we had played them the week previous in the league, I think. We beat them 4-0. They then came down the following Saturday to play in the Scottish Cup. And I think Scott Patterson got a worldie.
Yeah.
Didn't he? I think would have been
a left foot volley,
possibly, yeah. So that kind of kept us in the tie. Then we had to go to Inverness midweek. The weather was horrendous. The pitch was heavy. I think we had actually a good record against Inverness that year. I don't remember them taking anything off us with regard to a win. And then, of course, Scott had the free kick, which at the time you think is about 20 yards, but you actually see it. It's about 30 or 35 yards out. So, for him to score late, we knew then that was it. We were going to go to Hampden, and the bus journey back down the road wasn't as celebrated as what's previously been at Stirling and at Forfar, of course, because we knew we had a game on Saturday. But the fact that the club were going back to Hampden, some of us had never played in the semi-final before of a major competition, so it was going to be a huge day for us.
Yeah. And back to the league. In fact, we'll just on that the semi-final. I guess it was a little bit disappointing that you felt out the game relatively quickly, but Thistle put up a decent show that day, and there was obviously an amazing support there as well. Yeah.
Listen, there always is with Thistle fans. I'm not too sure they've been back to Hampden since then for a semi-final. Would they have been in any major competition? Naturally, they probably played Queen's Park in the League Cup and stuff. So it just shows occasions like that don't come round very often. Yeah. And I generally look throughout Scottish football and you think fans are a club deserving to be in an occasion like that. Certainly is Thistle. But listen, they were a class above us. Credo Canigi, who had played in the World Cup, was playing against us. The season before that, we were playing in the second division of Scottish football. So it was trying to adapt, trying to see where we were, trying to lay a marker down to see that if we did get promotion, how would we compete? I'm sure John looked at it and thought, we might need extra bodies in, extra quality, strength, whatever it might be. I think Christian Nerligan got two. I certainly remember that. So it certainly convinced me that, that if we get up, we could certainly be competitive. And as an individual, I thought I've still got a bit of work to do, but I wouldn't mind some more of this in the future. So it just almost whetted the appetite for us. Yeah.
And of course, we went back and tied up the league. We saw off Airdrie. There was quite an important game away to them late in the season when Alex Burns did us a turn. St Mirren away, I think you were injured that day for the celebrations.
Yeah, we played St Mirren the week. So we played Airdrie the week before, and I get carried off. I got a knock on my knee.
Yeah.
And at the time, we didn't know how long it would be, how serious it would be. I just knew I wasn't going to be available for the following Saturday, which is it's probably the one disappointment, or one of the disappointments of being at Firhill was not getting the chance to play in that game.
Yeah.
You know, again, coming out, seeing that stand at the old Love Street, you know, red and yellow and black just behind that goal, and then opposite in the corner we filled that bit as well, and the atmosphere was terrific. But so be it that the number 4 jersey I'd wore all season hadn't scored. Mark McCulloch put it on in that game, and lo and behold, up he pops with the opening goal of the game. So I'll take a little bit of credit. It was my jersey, but it was his head.
But you did get on the pitch when we played Wraith Rovers at home to collect the trophy, of course. That's two years in a row. All you've really known at Firhill has been success. Any danger at that stage of your career, anyone would take it for granted, or did you just soak it up all the time?
No, I think we were just soaking it up. I think we were just riding the wave. You know, I think sometimes when when you win something or there's a bit of joy, it's people sometimes look beyond and kill it for you and say, well, you've got that and you've got that. But we just almost looked at it. But a couple of nights out, we went out after the St Mirren game. I think we went round. I'm not too sure if that was after the St Mirren game. It might have been. We went round a couple of local pubs round the corner, and the fans cheered us in with a sing song with a couple of beers. So it was nice just to kind of relax and enjoy that as we went. We tried not to look too far ahead, but you're right. You know, I'd arrived at a football club. I was wanting to learn the profession. I was wanting to play some games to see where it would take me. And suddenly, you get two league title winners medals, which was absolutely terrific. Which is why I left home at 17 to be a professional footballer, was for some success. It turns out it was the only 2 winners medals I ever had, and a couple of runners-up medals in the League Cup and the Scottish Cup. So, at that time, you think, I remember Alan Moore saying in the old second division, and even Paul Dees and the guys in the first division saying, listen, guys, this doesn't happen every year. But we were young guys thinking, well, you never know. You're just not too sure what's going to happen. So, we enjoyed ourselves. We certainly partied well into the night. The fans celebrated about it. And it was almost getting the club back to where they belonged. Even now, when I see them, potentially what's going to happen in the next few weeks. Partick Thistle are a top flight club, no doubt about it. I think the infrastructure they have, the crowd they have, and the budget I'm sure the manager gets every year when they go up, they should be a top flight club. So to play that part and getting Thistle back to being a top flight club is absolutely terrific.
Agreed. We'll talk about the Premier League in a second, but just you've mentioned a couple of players in both those squads, Paul McGrillen and Jamie Dolan. Very poignant, sadly no longer with us. What can you tell us about those two?
Well, I was involved with both of them at Motherwell, first of all. When I came over in '94, Jamie was in the team at Motherwell. Paul was in and out of the team, would have come off the bench now and again. So I think Paul ended up going to Falkirk and drifting off a couple of clubs. Jamie Dolan, I think Jamie got sold to Dundee United. So it was nice to be reunited with guys that I certainly recognised. Jamie brought a steadiness to midfield. I remember him scored a wonder goal. Was it against St Mirren? Was it that call? Was it Ayr United? Was it Ayr or St Mirren? He scored a wonder goal in the
Ayr United, I think. Yeah.
Ayr United. I think he scored and then got sent off, which would have been typical Jamie. Coming again. That was John signing an experienced player to come into the dressing room who'd been there and had done it. He probably knew he wouldn't play every week. John probably thought Jamie won't play every week, but he trains well. He's a hunger and an appetite. He'll drive people on. And Paul was the same. Paul was a goal scorer even from a young age. Paul just scored goals continually. So, for John to bring that kind of quality in when we needed little lifts and have that quality off the bench to come on. But, two very nice men. I remember actually speaking to Jamie not long after Phil O'Donnell had passed away, and I had come. It actually might have been a Davis funeral. And Jamie talking about saying it was dreadful. What happened to such a young man? And lo and behold, a few years later, Jamie grows almost the same way as Phil. So it's sad for their families and their kids, isn't it? Really, they don't get the chance to see their dad and spend time with them. But certainly, football people and men in general, they were terrific. And as you say, sadly missed. Yeah,
both have their own special place in Thistle's history. That's for sure.
Nice.
So up to the Premier League, what would be your third and final season with the club? Again, was it aim simply, let's stay up? Simple as that?
Yeah. Well, I think so. I remember Roger Mitchell, the old SPL, I think chief executive, coming at the time. I can't really remember the quote, but it was something along the lines of, if anyone thinks Partick Thistle will stay up this year, they've been smoking marijuana.
Yeah, spot on.
So come the end of the season, there must have been plenty of people smoking marijuana about Glasgow because, we were probably the lowest budget, the most unexpected team to stay up. The previous 2 seasons you'd spoke about it, we were used to winning games, we were used to winning every week. We took big crowds away from home, we won away from home. That suddenly changed. The level of opposition was different. We were going to more intimidating venues. Any weaknesses we had in our system or individually, you probably get caught out a little bit. So we had to learn as we went. You know, John again tried to strengthen, bring in the likes of Derek White. He brought in David Lilly, who had played in the top flight. Eventually, further down, he brought in Kevin McGowan. So he was just trying to piece everything together to try and give us an opportunity. I think we won 8 games that season. Incredibly, we beat Aberdeen 3 times. I remember beating Aberdeen 3 times, twice up there as well.
Amazing.
You know, it was twice up there, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Three victories over Aberdeen.
Yeah. You know, so, I mean, we didn't beat many teams. I think we beat Motherwell twice. I remember beating Dunfermline 4-0 with Stevie Crawford and Craig Brewster, a really good side, you know, thumping them 4-0. And the Alex Burns hat-trick against Kilmarnock, which was one of the best hat-tricks you could ever imagine. So, listen, times change. We understood that. It tests another side of your resolve, Brian, because you have to get over defeat quite quick, whereas previously we haven't really had many defeats. So you have to learn how to get over defeats. You've got to gather yourself back together. I think John kind of relented a little bit in the criticism because he understood where we were as a team and a club and what we were trying to do. But, you know, just to be playing in that top flight, you know, so when I left home at 17, that was my aim, was to play top flight Scottish football. I went the long way around to get it, but eventually getting there, I certainly enjoyed it. And, you know, some of the challenges were great.
Absolutely. No, it's all been positives pretty much, but I can't not mention a certain cup tie at Celtic Park that November, which is it's still a sore. We don't need to talk about this too long. Is it still too soon?
No. It's a strange one because I think the score on penalties was 3-2 and there was about 20 penalties hit. Everybody just kept missing. But I remember we'd got to sudden death. I think Celtic had missed the 6th penalty. And James McKinstry was due to go, or Martin, I can't remember who, I think it was James McKinstry. And I said, no, I'll go. Because I had that mindset, well, if I miss, we're still in it. I wouldn't have wanted to have to take a penalty to score. And I just remember going up, putting the ball down. Big Rab Douglas was in goals. And I'm not kidding. In my mind, the goals just shrunk.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was like a 5-a-side goal. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to score. And lo and behold, the negative mindset, I didn't. I think they then scored the 7th. James McKinstry went up and scored, and he came back and said to me, you see, if you'd let me take the last one, we would have been through. And I thought, well, that's true. But I just think on the night we played well, actually. I know Celtic might not have had the strongest team, like, but you know, we certainly played well. You know, we competed, we were in for it. I think Alex Burns got the equaliser. So that was a huge disappointment because we felt there was an opportunity there that we missed. Would that have been the quarter-final?
Yeah, it was. It was. So it was a big chance.
Quarter-final. So we had a chance to go back to Hampden again. But yeah, you know, that's one of the disappointments of that. That certainly set us back a little bit. But it almost gives us a little bit of confidence that we could compete with the bigger teams.
Yeah.
If we were on our game, we were well structured, and we competed well, then we had a wee chance.
Yeah. And stay up we did. And 3 fantastic seasons for you. I guess the big regret for fans like me is that team couldn't stay together a little bit longer. How tough a decision was it for you to leave for Hull?
Well, it was a strange one because John was leaving. I think it had been announced prior to that. That would be John's last season. And sometimes when a manager goes, other players or staff look to go and find a different pathway. It would have been, I would have found it strange working under another manager at Firhill because John showed so much loyalty to me. You know, he understood me as a person, understood me as a player. He liked what he's seen, so you know, I was going to try and play more often. But listen, sometimes when there's change made, you don't always agree with potentially what the new manager is going to say. Jerry was going to take over. Jerry had a different path he wanted to go. He wanted to speak to different players. I was offered a contract. I don't think it was a contract that some people thought it was, or what was in the contract. But I had some options to go elsewhere. I'm going to weigh it up of leaving Firhill in a high, leaving with good memories, not wanting to fall out with anybody. I thought there's an opportunity. I had a chance to go back to Motherwell, you know, and it was sold to me that go back with unfinished business. And I thought Partick Thistle had learned me so much as an individual, so much as a football player. It was maybe time to finish. I think Scott Patterson was going to Dundee United, Alan Archibald was going to Dundee United. So people were starting to disperse. Danny Lennon was getting a bit older, I don't think he was playing very much. So naturally that squad from the old Division 2 was getting broke up. There was going to be a new influx of players and different approach to how the game was going to be played. And I just felt for me it was the right time to move on. Yeah.
And you move on, you did, and you went on to have a fantastic career both at Motherwell and at an international level. And you touched on the importance of game time, competitive game time when you were a young player. So, just how important was your 3 years at Partick Thistle for, your career in general?
Well, it was vital. Listen, there's no doubt that I wouldn't have went on to have the career I had if I hadn't been given the lifeline by Partick Thistle. If I hadn't been given the opportunity to go and play first team football. Ultimately, I still had to, look after my side of it, which was make sure I was fit, make sure I was mentally ready to play. I was prepared to go and play 40, 50 or 40, 45 games a season. So certainly I had my part to play, but to get the opportunity at a club like Partick Thistle to do that, to have the success and everything building as it went, and me growing with it, and the club growing as we went. Every time my family ever came over from Northern Ireland, the hospitality they received from everyone at Firhill, from the hospitality lounges, from people who work behind the bars, from the chairman, the directors, always wanting to come and say hello. For success-wise, we all play sport and play football to be successful, and probably the old second division and old first division were probably the two best seasons of my career. Just because we had success, we were winning most weeks. Money was irrelevant. Listen, we weren't on big money, so it wasn't all about money. It was just all about that winning feeling, that feel-good factor of winning games on the Saturday, coming in on the Monday, ready to buzz, ready to train again. Fans with smiles on their faces, getting medals at the end of it, family coming to watch you playing. Everything just came together. And I don't think I could have handpicked a better club to kind of reinvigorate my career than I did in Partick Thistle.
Superb. Thoroughly enjoyable time for supporters as well. So thank you once again. Any other personal highlights or memories that we've missed? There's been so many there, and this is, I think we're already in injury time here, but anything else you'd like to share with the fans? No,
I think just the fact I got my, I was capped 54 times in Northern Ireland, but some people again tend to forget the first 3 caps came at Thistle.
Yeah.
So, as much as going back to play league football, I got the chance to play international football. I think the debut was against Finland. I played against Armenia away and Greece at home. And I hadn't spoken to John for a long time prior to him dying. I remember one of the last conversations I had with him, and he said to me, "How many caps did you get in the end?" And I said 54, and typical John fashion, he said 53 more than you bleeping should have had. And I think it was a compliment. I didn't tell in his face, it didn't tell in his expression. He just said, "All right, see you later." And I remember thinking, does he mean that or does he not? But again, just John being John, I think that was his way of complimenting somebody and saying, "Well done, but I'm just bringing you back down to earth. I'm just putting your feet back in the ground." Yeah. So listen, we had some terrific trips. We used to go to, all the ex-Thistle players talk about it. We used to go to Blackpool in January, and we stayed in a B&B that was about £5 a night. What you had for lunch was the remains from breakfast. All the crazy things. We trained on a pitch that wasn't suitable for training. We ran up and down the beach. We mixed together. But that was all John's way of getting team spirit, kind of building people together. And people ask me nowadays, could John Lambie have survived in today's football? John would have survived no problem, because he would have found a way of doing it. That was his way. Of course, the fear factor for managers over players and the way people speak, they say can't happen nowadays. John would have evolved and went with it, but with regards to his training schedules and his training regimes and the fun we had and the laughs, and he took a mick out of himself. He loved being with the players. He loved being in the dressing room with the lads and cracking jokes and telling stories and having a laugh. And he knew where the line was. He knew not to cross it. And players knew not to cross it, because come the Saturday or Tuesday or Wednesday and game day, that was it. But an instrumental character in my career is to say, give me the opportunity to go and be the player that I was and the man I am today. So I'll always be thankful for that.
Well, he did. You might have joked about your caps, but he picked you in his all-time 11, so no higher praise than that. Which lets me turn to our final question for you. We asked you in advance to help you prepare. I think every fan, like myself, would love to know your Thistle 11 from your time at the club. We're going to exempt you from the lineup, so you can take the position of manager and run through your best Thistle 11 from the Stephen Craigan years. Yeah,
goalkeeper would be Kenny Arthur. Kenny spent a long time at the club, been through the highs and lows. The high of getting up on the low, coming back down again and trying to rebuild. He's now, I think he was goalkeeping coach. I think he still is. So Kenny and goal, we used to travel together, had a bit of fun together. Kenny got involved in the Scotland setup during his Thistle days as well. So it just shows you how well he'd done. And even now, his career after football and his goalkeeping glove business is doing terrifically well. My back four would be, I actually didn't really talk much about James McKinstry, but that season he had in the Championship, I remember his goal against Clyde was absolutely terrific. Cut in was from outside right into his left foot and bent it into the top, far top corner. But just a really good lad, just good humour about him, always bubbling about the dressing room. Probably a better player than what people give him credit for. So I'd go banjo, and the reason he was called banjo, he used to play the guitar. Your Thistle fans probably know this, and John used to call it a banjo, so he just nicknamed him Banjo. That's where it came from, as simple as that. Two centre halves would be Big Scotty Patterson and Archie, of course, the former management team at Firhill. And it's interesting because I think Scott's only real full season of fitness came in the old First Division. I think he played all 36 games. He was up for a nominee for Player of the Year from his fellow professionals at PFA. He had a terrific season, honestly. He was flying, his composure, everything about him was terrific to play beside. It was nice to have that experience and talk around about you and composure on the ball. So he was great. Archie had played beside him at left centre half. Archie played a lot at left centre half, and played a lot at left wing back when John played 3-5-2. But, a real stalwart, played loads of games at Partick Thistle. Just when he left to go to Dundee United, it was obvious for me he was always going to come back, Brian. I just think that was a club that he always spoke about. Him turning out to be a manager, very surprised, because during his playing days he didn't really speak an awful lot about it. I don't know if in his latter days he started to think about it a bit more, but I didn't see him becoming a manager. So I was delighted when he got the job and had the success of bringing them up. Of course, it always ends in acrimonious circumstances, but certainly he fulfilled his ambitions of managing and playing for Partick Thistle, and good to see him back at the club. Left back, I would go for Derek Fleming. Flea probably played a one up as a left midfielder at times, but he certainly could play left back. Scored important goals. Unfortunately for him, in the day that we won the league at St Mirren, he broke his leg scoring that first goal. But again, just a bubbly little character who, had a great left foot, great set play delivery, good free kick, scored goals from distance, scored vital goals as well in games that we played in. So I'd put him in at left back. The three midfield players I would have would be Big Hardy. You scored loads of goals in the old second division, scored loads of goals in the first division. Give us that platform to go on and win the leagues. Just his timing from midfield, his late runs, at times, maybe technically lacked a little bit. I think he got better as he went on with regards moving the ball and stuff, but certainly getting himself into the box, that aerial threat, was vital in those days. Danny Lennon was captain in Division 1, Division 2. Again, very close to John. Him and John travelled together all the time, very close when Jamie Dolan eventually came along. But, led from the front. He'd played with Raith Rovers, he'd played in Europe. I think he had some certain international B caps in Northern Ireland. So if you found the third tier of Scottish football, his experience was crucial for us. And another one I haven't really mentioned, Jamie Mitchell. Jamie came in from Clyde. He just added a little, a different dimension to us with regards even with Martin. He got himself into the box. He was nimble. He moved his body well. He got some vital goals. It was a good trainer. It was a game was kind of rebuilding his career to go back up the ladder. So John spotted that at Clyde and brought him in. And the front three would go with Trigger Scott McLean. Honestly, as thick as two planks of wood. Always a humour in the dressing room. Always had a story to tell. Everything about his life. At that stage was so wrong, as in, just where he was going, what he was doing off the pitch, but on the pitch, he was a good player. He could take the ball and back to goal. He could wrestle defenders. He could score left foot, right foot. He could run. I think that was a challenge for John. John liked that challenge of working with that kind of player of how can I get that right? How can I make him tick? And for those certainly 2 seasons in Division 1, Division 2, Trigger ticked and got some vital goals. Alec Burns coming in the championship season, I think, just helped us get over the line, went into the SPL as it was, got himself some vital goals, crucial for us staying up in the league. So again, I played with Toasty when I was younger at Motherwell. Again, had all the attributes. He could run, he could take the ball in, he could play different positions, and he just gave us that wee spark at times in games when we needed it. And I couldn't pick a team without putting in the King of Spain. Jerry was just terrific. Jerry was all arms and legs and elbows. But technically, some of the goals he scored, his build-up play, his hold-up play, get themselves in the right position. Again, driving a dressing room that when was down at times and we hadn't won games, picked her up and just kind of the camaraderie amongst it all was great. Jerry was at the heart of every joke and every story and every line. So, I don't know if I'd win much with that side, but we'll certainly have a good time.
I think you would. What a team. What a team. I've written that down, so we'll be sharing that in a visual as well as an interview with Thistle fans. I'm sure that'll just help reinforce and remind people what a special era that was. So all that's left for me to say is just thank you so much on behalf of all Thistle fans. Amazing memories. I could talk about that for hours, frankly, and there's loads and loads we've not even touched on. But again, for fans who've been supporting Thistle for 30, 40, 50 years, one of the very best eras for not only success but entertainment and just really good connection between supporters and the players as well. So thank you on behalf of everyone at the club. Obviously, look after yourself, stay well, hope the family continue to stay well, and we all look forward to welcoming you back to Firhill when football returns.
Same to yourself and all Thistle fans out there. Stay safe, stay patient. The good times will be back and Firhill will be full soon. Absolutely.
Thank you, Stephen. All the best.
Cheers, Brian. Thanks.